what we've got here is failure to communicate.
Yeah, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
I'm down to do wrestling with you and vice versa. But the recent success we'll talk about first was the LFA event that happened most recently. Awesome to watch. I was sitting down watching that on my phone in my backyard and enjoyed to see Niagara Top Team really, 3-0 in success. We had Luke, we had Mohar, we had Tisha just go in there and really break things down. I love watching Tisha fight, and people tend to butcher his first name. It is Tisha, yes? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Tisha.
Okay,
That's what I call him anyway. So I might be butchering it too, but that's what I call him.
I know that some commentators call him like Tisha and they mess like whatever. So
yeah, it's Tisha.
So I don't know. I'm sure if I get him on, he'll correct me anyways. But what I was going to say about him that I noticed, man, he really balances that wrestling, grappling game, and striking all so well. Especially in this new world where judges are looking for activity when you're grappling. And I think actually that's a big testament to all your fighters. But he just had a well-balanced fight of he landed just what he needed to. He has some big power shots that looks good in the judge's eyes. Mixed up his grappling and just controlled that fight. Showed good fight IQ in there too. I mean, he could have tried to go in for the kill at the end, and that doesn't always work out well, a la Usman. So he did great in that fight. It was great to watch. And Mohar also had some great success as well too. Just talk about the success of him and Luke as well, and how you felt as a coach at that event at LFA.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good performance on all three parties. Like, we're not fighting for some Mickey Mouse league or, this is they all had legit opponents and they were all game opponents. So to go in there and win 3 fights the way we did, it was awesome. I think we got 2 finishes, and then Tisha, won a smart fight against a really good guy from another big gym. And yeah, Tisha is, that's the testament of being just smart, high fight IQ. He did exactly what he needed to do to win the fight, and not every fight is going to be a finish, and we need to know how to win decisions too. And I think he showed that he can win decisions, and that fight could have easily went another way in another night. But that night, Tisha put all the right techniques together and fought the right fight to get a big win and put him up to 6-1 now. I believe it's 6-1. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Might be 7-1. Is that 6-1 or 7-1?
You got to play to your strengths, especially at this point in your career, because like the Dana White Contender Series, and I'm going to have to get my voice together here, and even at LFA level, guys are fighting for everything at that point, right? They're fighting to get that contract. They're fighting to get that look in the Bellator or in the UFC or PFL. And you may even see a whole bunch of stuff on tape, and I wanted to ask you that. You see a whole bunch of stuff on tape and you game plan for someone, but they come up with a totally different game plan based on this emotion, this raw, athleticism, and whatever it is, they just explode out there, or they come in with a different game plan because they're fighting for everything. What is that like as a coach to have to adjust on the fly and change things?
Honestly, I try not to get too caught up in film myself. I do watch some film and all that, and obviously I want to know what stance we're dealing with, and is this a striker or grappler? But outside of that, I know myself, my athletes are evolving and changing from fight to fight. They're getting better. They're strengthening, what they was once their weakness. We're looking at that. And we're trying to turn their weaknesses into their strengths. So I got to assume other teams and other fighters are doing that. So yeah, I try not to get too caught up in what they're going to do and just focus on ourselves and rounding out our game. And that's it. Like, again, D-Mark's, he's more of the mastermind as far as, game plan and strategy. I'm more of like the wrestling technical coach. But D-Marks is the one that's more about strategizing and all that. But again, we don't put too big of an emphasis on that. We more just focus on getting our guys good in all areas and just be ready to win the fight in all areas.
And I would butcher his name, but you're obviously talking about Matthew DiMarcantonio. I'll say that maybe that's close.
Yeah.
DiMarcantonio, there you go, the cat. So he's alongside you, the other head coach at Niagara Top Team. I wanted to touch also on the success of Jasmine Jasudivicius. I know that the last fight didn't go her way, but the one thing that we've loved about watching not only Jasmine but your fighters is your guys are active in the clinch. You guys are active on the cage. and there's elbows being thrown, and Jasmine, is just vicious with that, literally. And I don't know, we'll play off her name and be cheesy about it, but she's just active as shit. I know last fight it didn't quite go her way. She was trying to, catch the footwork of I think it was Natalia that she had fought Silva. Did that fighter catch you off by surprise? I'm sure people have asked you this because we tried to find tape on this girl. I couldn't find tape, and I'm sure when you don't know anything about a fighter, you want to at least get a little bit of a sense as to what they can do. Was there anything you knew about her footwork and everything else?
Just to go back to what you said, watching tape, and man, that girl hadn't fought in over 2 years, and she was on a 6 or 7 win streak with like 6 finishes. So she wasn't. We weren't looking past her by any means, but she came out there and looked like a complete new fighter against her. She looked good, man. I wouldn't be surprised if that girl goes on a big win streak, and I could see that girl, tearing up a lot of the girls in the 125 division. So, yeah, she was good. We expected her to move on the outside, but we didn't expect her to keep the steam like that for 3 full rounds. And her wrestling defense and even her wrestling offense was much improved from what we saw in prior fights. So, good for them. They came out and they fought the smart fight and they got the win. But we're just back to work as usual. It doesn't matter win, lose, or draw. We're doing the same thing. It's training hard and just every single day reflecting and looking back at ourselves and what we need to improve on, and then rinse and repeat. It's the same shit.
100%, man. I mean, just gives her another angle to look at, work on, and figure out. I mean, it was. I can't imagine trying to catch that girl in the cage with her footwork.
Yeah.
And then not going and expecting it, and maybe not running that kind of a game plan going in would be very difficult. So, but like I said, we're looking forward to see Jasmine back in again.
Yeah.
As much as we're a gambling podcast where we go back and forth on edging this and edging that, I end up being a homer half the time, and I have to stay off some of the picks sometimes because I'm always going for Canada. So. And I mean, another a couple guys that we just mentioned quickly would be Bobby Poulter. He's a problem. I know that he's at least on Tapology in your gym. I don't know. Is he down at Niagara Top Team still?
He trains with us a little bit. He trains out of Agus MMA with Lucas over there, but he cross trains with us a fair bit. And he's out on the regular, to our wrestling practices. And our guys cross train with them a fair bit too. So, but yeah, Bobby's a beast. He's a real problem at 170.
And then Cody Zhivanchek, probably messing up his name too, but I'll get them as we go. Has had some pretty good recent success at BTC. Speak on him as well too, and then we'll jump into a couple other things too.
Yeah. So Cody, I mean, he's a kid that came here as an amateur. He moved down here from Sarnia, or up near Sarnia, butchering where he's from. But anyways, he came here. Just a kid, just full of piss and vinegar, and he was skilled as well, but his game wasn't so rounded out. He had lots of fight in him, and since moving down here, he's turned into a true professional, and he's just embodied everything that we try to preach at the gym, and that's just living the lifestyle of a professional athlete, and he's doing that now, and the results are showing. He's 3-0, and yeah, he's sky's the limit for Cody. I can't wait to see what his career looks like and how it unfolds. But I know he's going to be fighting at the highest level, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to have a lot of fighters at top tier levels very, very soon. There's a lot of your guys that are just on this precipice of jumping in. So I'm pretty excited about that, to see Niagara Top Team and then also Southern Ontario really put their name on the map on a big, big level. Because everybody's shitting on Canada. Like, I hear this a lot. Where's the next prospects coming out of Canada? We don't have anything coming out of Canada anymore. Canada is dry. It's like, no, it's fucking not. We're here.
But yeah, other gyms like I mentioned, House of Champions, BTC, Agus, Bazooka Joe's, boxing, Grant's brothers. Like, there's lots of gyms that are doing big things. I just feel like what has hurt us in the past was the amount of shows that were being put on, and BTC stepped up in a big way.
They've been awesome.
Prospect now is back in action, and now Unified is coming to Ontario, and so now the shows are coming. I think you're going to see a lot more people, not just from Niagara Top Team, but from all the gyms, are going to start producing more people. Now we're getting more opportunities to showcase the skills, because there is a ton of killers in the province, and I think there's going to be a bunch of people breaking through. And Jazz and Mike Malott were two that just broke through to the UFC, and Aaron obviously into Bellator, and now it's like 2 fights later, and the guy's talking about fighting for a title for Bellator. So there's a lot of kids, chomping at the bit right now. Guys like Cody, guys like Tisha, Zach Powell, Kevin Popowicz. We got a whole bunch of guys that are, on their way up. I mean, Ashley Nichols.
Ashley Nichols.
She's got a big title fight for LFA.
Yep.
And then we got our amateurs about to turn pro.
And when is that coming up? Ashley Nichols' fight's coming up. What is that? September 10th, is it?
September 16th.
16th, okay. All right.
So, not to name drop a whole bunch of people, but I'm just saying we got
no, I want you to, dude. A big part of this was not just me to get angles from you. Is I really appreciate the amount of talent coming out of that area of not just your gym, but then the affiliated gyms that all work together. And I just think it's awesome, man. I just like half these guys. Although I have a small podcast and I'm trying to get my name going, I love to shine light on anybody I possibly can as I grow my podcast and these guys get their name too. So. Excited to see what you guys are doing, and you did sort of shed light on the one guy I wanted to talk about too. They say you go for the biggest name for the easiest payday, and when one gets dropped in your lap a couple weeks out before the fight, or however long it was right before the fight, and Aaron Jefferey gets to step in against Austin Vanderford, how excited were you guys when you saw that that come across the table?
Man, super excited. I was like, hair stand up on the forearms, It was a really cool moment, and I just was super happy for him because, he's had one of those careers that hasn't always been just, hasn't just been a straight line up. He's had some ups and downs in his career, and I've always known him that he's I call him the team captain for a reason because he's the epitome of a professional and how he lives his life and how he trains. He's respectful, everything, humble, all the things you want to see in an athlete, and he is all that. So for him to get that opportunity, I knew he was going to seize the moment, and he did that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on the podcast before, and I mean, it was right before he went in again his last fight at Dana White Contender Series. Mm-hmm. And I know that fight didn't go his way. He had a similar issue with trying to find, the just good footwork on his opponent. Couldn't really get in there, close the distance, and do what he wanted to do against him. But that guy's really high level, and Aaron still did a great job against him, anyways.
Aaron,
right?
You did a great job. I see Aaron there watching.
Yeah, hey Aaron, how you doing?
Literally,
but look, things. This is the epitome of things work out the way they work out, and they work out the way they do for a reason. The guy's getting paid more, and now he goes in. Vanderford was easily, as soon as I saw that lineup, that fight, I'm like, I'm all over this line because Vanderford was exposed against Mousasi, and he doesn't like getting hit, right? He likes being the hammer. He's a horrible nail, and I think Jeffrey proved that. I mean, he went in and I know that all the headlines are he beat up Paige Van Zandt's husband, but the reality is, Vanderford's no joke. Solid wrestling, power in his hands, very dangerous. But at the same time, Aaron just went out and touched him up right away. I didn't expect that. I thought he was going to get elbows up against the cage and then just sort of give in. You see him break up against the cage, and that would be it. But that quick, pretty excited for him. So is there any talks of anything else? Obviously, if there is that you can't really talk about, that's fine. But what's going on with Aaron and how quickly does he want to turn around?
I think I'm sure he wants to fight again before the end of the year. I believe he's going to go back out to Florida and do some training at Sanford again, probably in September. But no, he's the same. Again, win, lose, or draw, he's back to work. I mean, I think he was back to practice on Tuesday, 2 days on Tuesday. So I think he took Monday off and he was right back to work. The guy doesn't, he doesn't leave the gym. He leaves the gym to go eat and then he comes back to the gym. So I'm sure he's wanting to fight again before the end of the year. Who knows? Maybe we'll get 2 fights in. Wouldn't be surprised if he fought twice more.
Yeah, the common thread I saw between a lot of your fighters and their styles, and I don't know if it's just the individuals or it is something that you guys drill so much. But like I was saying before, I think that the big advantage you guys have in your decisions, and then obviously getting to your closing out your fights, is what you do in your clinch work and your work on the cage. Like the elbows, that's one of Jeffrey's big things. His elbows, he's coming down with elbows on the top. Like it's people don't have a time to even rest at all. They think that they have a chance to sort of defend the grappling up against the cage, and then they're getting fucking smashed. Mm-hmm. Jasmine does the same thing. You see Tisha do the same thing. Is that something that you guys really, really emphasize? Because a lot of fighters aren't active enough because they don't feel strong enough in their wrestling and their position and their control. Is that something that you guys drill?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think of it as like I think we train everything equally. We're spending as much time on the ground as we are on the feet and in clinch. I think what it maybe exposes that other places aren't training as much on the fence or as much on the wall work, you know. So I don't know if we stand out there. Like I've never thought of ourselves as like these superstars in the clinch, but yeah, now that you mention it, Jazz, not like we get a lot of people do some of their best work in the clinch, probably attributed to the amount of clinch work we do. But I think we train it all we're pretty balanced, you know. We have our days where we focus on wrestling. We have our days where we focus on just striking, and we have our days where we work on just our jits, and then we have our days we blend it all together. So to me, we're not working, you know, overtime in any one area. We're pretty well rounded, but I suppose we have some pretty good gnarly finishes in the clinch. Yeah.
And I mean, that makes sense. If other teams aren't really drilling it at all, then it's just a whole that you guys are
I think it's
exposing.
just it's the nature of the sport and how it's evolved. Like, you know, all the other disciplines, they've been around for a while, but the wall wrestling is something that is still relatively new, and there's no one sport that has it except for MMA. So we are a complete MMA gym. I think, you know, that's probably why we excel in that area, is because we give it its due time in that area.
Yeah, it's like I'm not a fighter, so I don't understand what it is to go in there and wrestle up against the cage for hours upon hours and training and everything else. But you can see the difference in some camps. You see some guys go in there and they just get lost. They get lost on a single or lost on a double. They're pressing guys up against the cage and they don't know how to turn the corner and drop the guy down on his butt. You see Jeffrey do that all the time. He does that one single leg pull out, drop him to his butt. Mm-hmm. People don't tend to get creative. Maybe it's just a variance of attacks they don't have and they can't chain it all together. But just once again, it's more of a hats off, and I wanted to say, you know, a lot of the fighters get the shine, but you know, you're the wrestling coach at one of the more successful gyms, and one of the most successful gyms in Canada. So hats off to you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Well, respect to you, man. I mean, you're in the corner of a lot of people. People don't realize some of these coaches that are in the corner of so many people in the background, and you got to take a hats off to you. And I'm sure that a lot of your fighters.
Full-time job, that's for sure. It's full-time.
Well, you're a dad, a coach, a mentor, and I'm sure a lot of other hats that you got to wear. So